All right, part 47. So as I've been putting these in, I've been popping these in over here as well. And make sure that you don't nail this bottom part right here onto this if you're gonna transport it. If you're in the final location, go ahead and staple that on there, nail it on there, whatever you're doing. And so now we're down to the last piece. And you see how this comes down to a fine point right here. So we want at least 1.5 inches or so on this butt edge to cover that, because if I cut it right straight to a point, it's not going to fit real well. So on this side, we've got approximately, you're going to have about, close to 8 inches for your overlap there, 7.5, somewhere around in there. So I took the scrap little piece of plywood that I had left over and I did a layout on it. And I got 2 pieces out of that. And so you can get 2 pieces by matching your angles together. But if you put them this way, then it uses more plywood, and the plywood scrap that I had left wouldn't have been enough. So I had to shift it down, and then that gives me a little bit more to work with here. So on my height, I have, you can see my first layout I changed. So on my height, I have about 8 inches, which you could be about 7.5 actually. And on this end, I've got about 2 inches. So I just took the pattern once I knew it fit, and I laid it on top of the board, and I traced that out so that I can cut this one out. And I just used another piece of scrap that I had. I'm not gonna be able to give you the exact number of sheets, unfortunately. It's gonna take approximately 3 sheets, and then maybe a little bit more if you're building this all from scratch, depending on how you build it. And then we're gonna, depend on how many egg hutches you do, you're gonna have however much plywood that's used on that as well. So plan on 3 sheets, especially if you're gonna use this FRP method, and go over it with the FRP. If you're gonna be using the PVC board, the 1/2-inch PVC board, then you can eliminate one of your sheets, but you're gonna need about 2 sheets of that PVC board in order to cover everything. And you'll have some scrap of that left over. And then it also depends on how high you come up on this, if you're just doing a rail around here for your litter or not. So you can vary it a little bit depending on what materials you have to work with. Okay, so I'm gonna put these 2 together, and then I'm gonna take, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and take that one off, and then make another identical one that goes on the end for the far end of the chicken coop, because it'll be the same pattern, and do the same thing and not staple that along that bottom edge. That way I can pick that whole piece up, and then that'll go on during the final assembly. Okay, so, what else I want to tell you? I did end up having to cut about 1/8 of an inch off of this from what my original measurement was, in order to get this to fit down into the groove. And mostly because it was just catching on this FRP board. So I shaved a little bit of that off so that it would fit better. But otherwise we have basically a pretty good fit. But you can see things aren't exactly 100% square. And if you made this so that it fit tight, you would probably have a really hard time actually getting it in there. It's got to have a little bit of breathing room in order to be able to set in here at an angle. And when you set the board in here, it's got to start at this corner and go all the way up to that corner right there. And you bring the sheet in at an angle like this, and then you can lay it down flat. All right.